and you have a black player that just got cut, and Sheryl Swoopes is not happy about that.
But they did keep Jaylen Brown. That does make me wonder, like, why not cut Jaylen Brown in this round if she still wasn't in consideration?
The reality of it is they are most likely going to have to make another cut. It is most likely going to be Brown.
And Sheryl Swoopes is in mid-season hateration form. They're not only go after Caitlin Clark this year, they're going to go after Sophie Cunningham and Lexi Hall.
The Indiana Fever just made a move that sent shockwaves through the entire WNBA. Moments ago, not one, but two major players were fired from the team's roster. And before the dust could even settle, WNBA legend Sheryl Swoopes exploded in anger, calling out the Fever's coaching staff and igniting fresh controversy that drags Caitlin Clark right back into the center of the storm.
I thought we were going to get through a season without hearing anything stupid out of Sheryl Swoopes' mouth. We saw Sheryl Swoopes in rare form hating on Caitlin Clark all last year. Maybe she has figured out, well, hating on Clark, that's not really a great idea. What other white girls can I tune up from the Indiana Fever? She's criticizing Stephanie White.
The tension is boiling over, because this isn't just about basketball anymore. It's about power, favoritism, and a battle between the old guard and the new stars reshaping the league. If you thought the drama last season was intense, what's happening right now is on a whole new level.
Swoopes hadn't shied away from speaking her mind, as last season she raised questions about the legitimacy of Indiana Fever stars Caitlin Clark's collegiate scoring record. Oh, I bet Sheryl Swoopes hates her.
Stick with me, because what I'm about to reveal will change how you see everything going on with the Indiana Fever. If you're a Caitlin Clark fan, type CC 100% in the comments.
So the Indiana Fever, as expected, have waived Ivana Egup. She's just not at the level that the Indiana Fever are hoping her to be at.
The Fever announced it directly. Thank you, Ivana Egup, who was the all-time leading scorer in Gonzaga history.
The Indiana Fever just made one of the boldest roster decisions we've seen in a long time, and nobody saw it coming this fast.
Brie Hall is now gone, as you know. And today it was announced that Ivana Egup has been waived by the Fever as well. Sophie Cunningham talked about that yesterday, saying you can latch on to another team, another place.
Just because you didn't make a roster doesn't mean you're out of the W forever.
Rookie guard Brie Hall, a promising young player with explosive potential, has officially been cut from the team. The move comes as a jolt, especially since Hall didn't even get a fair shot to showcase her game in preseason matchups.
I'm not seeing Brie Turner being the Brie Turner that I wanted her to be. Brie Turner is a rim runner, so we all kind of thought that she was a lock, and she was in that gym practicing every day with the Indiana Fever, which was a good sign.
In the Fever's opening game against the Washington Mystics, Hall didn't see a single minute of action. And just like that, she's out. But the surprises didn't stop there. Shortly after, the Fever announced that Ivana Egup, the all-time leading scorer in Gonzaga history, was waived as well.
I don't think it's a coincidence that it took a little bit longer to cut Egup. They obviously liked what they saw from her, but there's only so many players they can carry.
Two rookies, both with decorated college careers and the hunger to make their mark in the pros, suddenly shown the door.
But the fact that Brown is still around is interesting to me. And she didn't shoot that well in one of the games the other day, but that energy she brought on the floor was palpable. It was noticeable.
For Egup, who wasn't even part of the first wave of roster cuts, the decision felt like a gut punch. She survived initial evaluations, only to be let go later. A brutal reminder of how cutthroat WNBA roster battles can be.
Michaela Timpson is obviously at a certain level. She's a rim runner. She just obviously has a higher ceiling than Egup at the moment. And this is maybe a hot take.
Dreams crushed, futures thrown into uncertainty. It's a tough pill to swallow. Now, to understand why these moves shock so many, you have to look at who stayed. While Brie Hall and Ivana Egup were sent packing, Sophie Cunningham and Lexi Hall, two veterans with more WNBA experience, have not only kept their spots but were given priority minutes in preseason play.
Man, it's hard, right? We all reached out. I think that they brought really good people in, great people into training camp this year. But, just because you didn't make this squad, this is probably one of the harder rosters to make in the W this year. It doesn't mean you're out of the W, and you just got to keep ready, keep playing, keep grinding it out. And if it's hard to make the league. I know Sid and I, we were second rounders. We stuck. Her experience is a little bit different than mine, but just because you didn't make a roster doesn't mean you're out of the W forever.
Sophie Cunningham, in particular, proved herself in the Fever's exhibition against Brazil, solidifying her value as a bona fide starter. It's clear the coaching staff, under Stephanie White, is leaning heavily on veteran stability as they rebuild chemistry with this new-look team. And that strategy makes sense on paper. The Fever aren't just evaluating talent. They're trying to mesh a roster that features a slew of new faces, including Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston, Kelsey Mitchell, and several other fresh pieces.
Kelsey Mitchell fractured her left middle finger, her shooting hand, while she was playing in China in the offseason, and says it is now healing on its own, which means it isn't all the way healed.
Building chemistry and understanding a new system under Coach White is critical if Indiana hopes to make noise this season. But for fans of Brie Hall and Ivana Egup, and for those who root for rookies grinding for their chance, it's still a bitter pill.
Washington Mystics Atlanta Dream game, and Sonia Citron, while chasing down Alicia Gray running to the rim, does not see Brittany Griner set a screen, and kind of reminded me of the welcome to the league moment that Caitlin Clark had when she just like ricocheted off of that Breanna Stewart screen. Now Brittany Griner immediately held her hand out to help the rook up, but Sonia Citron needed a minute as she was totally winded. Actually, this is what she said afterwards. She hit me right in the ribs, so it was like sharp pains, but I couldn't breathe.
These cuts weren't just about stats or talent. They were business decisions, driven by the reality of salary caps, roster limits, and the Fever's vision for a title-contending squad. But whether fair or not, these roster moves have triggered a reaction across the league that's getting louder by the minute. And leading that charge is none other than Sheryl Swoopes herself. It didn't take long for the first sparks of outrage to catch fire.
She's my role model. I really look up to her.
Why do you like Caitlin?
And she's so good at basketball.
Because she's that awesome person and she has like a lot of aura, so like.
The moment news broke that Brie Hall had been cut, WNBA legend Sheryl Swoopes wasted no time stepping into the spotlight. And what she unleashed wasn't just criticism, it was a full-blown takedown of the Indiana Fever's coaching decisions.
You played basketball, Sheryl Swoopes? I don't understand.
On the latest episode of the Women's Hoop Show, Swoopes made her stance crystal clear. She wasn't buying what head coach Stephanie White was selling. Swoopes tore into White's handling of the preseason rotations, questioning why Brie Hall was denied meaningful minutes to prove herself.
Swoopes appeared on the latest episode of the Women's Hoop Show, where she discussed the topics around the WNBA, including the Indiana Fever's latest move, cutting rookie guard Brie Hall. Swoopes questioned Fever head coach Stephanie White's decision to give veterans like Lexi Hull and Sophie Cunningham minutes over Brie Hall and then cut her without giving her a fair opportunity to prove herself.
According to Swoopes, Hall should have been given an opportunity, not just left sitting on the sidelines while veterans like Lexi Hull and Sophie Cunningham got prime time. Her exact words cut straight to the point.
In the first preseason game against Washington Mystics, Hall didn't see the court at all. Quote, even though the starters weren't in, like Sophie Cunningham and Lexi Hull, they've been in the league for a while. You actually had players like Brie Hall. Why wasn't she in that game, per se? If you are still trying to figure out who's going to make the team, who you're going to cut. So I'm a little confused with what Steph White was doing.
If you're still trying to figure out who's going to make the team and who you're going to cut, why wasn't Brie Hall in that game? The implication was sharp. Swoopes wasn't just questioning strategy. She was hinting that something deeper, maybe even political or personal, was at play. But Swoopes didn't stop there. She zeroed in on the players who did benefit from White's decisions. Lexi Hull and Sophie Cunningham, two White veterans who, in Swoopes' view, were given a leg up while Brie Hall, a black rookie, was shown the door. The way Swoopes framed it left little doubt about the narrative she was pushing. She questioned whether bias or favoritism influenced the coaching calls, subtly raising the specter of race without outright saying it. It's not the first time Swoopes has walked this line either.
The biggest thing about this team, other WNBA teams are not going to be able to guard Caitlin Clark in the same way that they did during her rookie season because you have so many assets on the court now. You are not going to be able to trap Caitlin Clark because there are so many other threats on the floor.
Let's not forget, last season, Sheryl Swoopes was one of the most vocal critics of Caitlin Clark. She openly questioned the legitimacy of Clark's historic collegiate scoring records and frequently downplayed her impact on the game. And now, with Clark on the Indiana Fever, Swoopes appears to be expanding her scope. It's not just Caitlin Clark in the crosshairs anymore. It's Sophie Cunningham and Lexi Hall, two of Clark's key teammates. The pattern is hard to ignore.
1.3 million viewers on the TV rating for Caitlin Clark's preseason debut against Brazil in a blowout, sold out in front of 15,000 fans at $670 a ticket. She is the needle.
Caitlin Clark returned to Iowa yesterday. It looked like the entire state of Iowa shut down. This is what the drawing power of a real star looks like.
In fact, in her rant on the show, Swoopes sarcastically suggested that she might just make it her business to tune up other white girls on the Indiana Fever, since she'd been told to back off Clark for now. That kind of comment isn't subtle. It fuels the narrative that Swoopes is positioning herself as the enforcer of an old guard, one that doesn't appreciate how young white stars like Clark, Hall, and Cunningham are changing the face of the WNBA. But here's where her argument starts to crumble. Coach Stephanie White's decision wasn't just about individual performance, it was about team chemistry. The Fever are fielding one of the most overhauled rosters in the league, and with a brand new coach installing a brand new system, veterans with established WNBA experience are more valuable in the short term than untested rookies.
So there were 14,998 people in attendance for this game. Average reported ticket price was $650. That is almost $9.75 million just for a WNBA preseason game.
No matter how talented they are, players like Cunningham and Hall have years of professional basketball under their belts. They know how to adapt quickly, communicate effectively, and integrate into new schemes. That's what this Fever squad desperately needs if they want to gel before the regular season tips off. Moreover, Swoopes' criticism ignores one critical fact. Preseason isn't just about auditions. It's about building units that work. It's about seeing how players operate together on the floor under game speed conditions, not just how they perform in isolation. As frustrating as it might be for fans of Brie Hall, Coach White made a calculated move prioritizing experience and chemistry over raw potential. And here's another overlooked point. Sophie Cunningham earned her spot. In the Fever's exhibition game against Brazil, Cunningham put up a performance that left no doubt she belongs in the starting lineup. Her impact on both ends of the floor, her hustle, and her leadership were on full display. She wasn't just handed minutes, she took them. But none of that seemed to matter to Sheryl Swoopes. Her frustration boiled over into a broader accusation that the Indiana Fever, in promoting Caitlin Clark and empowering her supporting cast, were sidelining deserving black players like Brie Hall. Whether you agree with her or not, her words have already stirred division, ignited heated debates online, and made it clear that the war of words surrounding Caitlin Clark and her teammates is far from over.
And Caitlin mentioned that once again.
What is possible for this group this year?
Yeah, a championship. That's our goal. And I think working every single day.
Swoopes' comments are setting the stage for a season-long narrative that won't be easy to escape. This isn't just a battle over roster spots. It's a clash of philosophies, identities, and visions for the future of the WNBA. And like it or not, Caitlin Clark is right in the eye of the storm. If you thought this was just a story about roster cuts and preseason rotations, think again, because what's really happening here is far bigger. The reaction from Sheryl Swoopes and others has made one thing crystal clear. Caitlin Clark isn't just the centerpiece of the Indiana Fever offense, she's the lightning rod for an entire cultural battle brewing inside the WNBA. Let's step back and be honest about the reality here. Caitlin Clark isn't just any rookie. She's the biggest phenomenon the women's game has seen in decades. A record-shattering college career, a jaw-dropping ability to hit logo threes like it's nothing, and a charisma that's drawn millions of new fans into women's basketball.
This team is going to break so many records this year. Attendance, viewership, merch sales, all of the things.
This was a preseason WNBA game. It is unbelievable what it is Caitlin Clark does.
Whenever Caitlin Clark takes the floor, that maybe is different not only from any player in the WNBA, but from any player in basketball.
Since stepping onto the court in Indiana, she hasn't just lifted the Fever. She's elevated the profile of the entire league. Attendance is up, TV ratings are exploding, and merchandise sales with her name are through the roof. There's no debate about her impact. Caitlin Clark is the face of the WNBA's new era. But with that spotlight comes a target. And the narrative that Sheryl Swoopes is pushing shows exactly what Clark will be dealing with all season long. Last year, Swoopes went after Clark's collegiate records, casting doubt on whether her stats were as impressive as the media claimed. This year, even before the Fever's regular season opener, she's already throwing shade not only at Clark, but at Clark's teammates, suggesting that white players like Lexi Hull and Sophie Cunningham are getting favoritism over black players like Brie Hall. Whether fair or not, this is the framing many old guard voices seem determined to keep alive. And here's the kicker.
People were so excited for this game for many reasons, but the main one being that Caitlin Clark would be returning to Iowa to play at Carver Hawkeye Arena, the Brazilian national team. Even though they lost by that much, it still seemed like they had a great time. Caitlin was signing their jerseys after the game. They were taking photos with her.
She's my role model. I really look up to her.
Caitlin Clark isn't the one making the roster decisions. She isn't the one choosing lineups or cutting players. That falls on Stephanie White and the Fever coaching staff. Yet because of Clark's prominence, her name and her reputation are going to be dragged into every personnel move, every controversy, every debate about who's getting opportunities and who isn't. That's the pressure cooker she's about to enter, whether she likes it or not. And it's not just Sheryl Swoopes. Across social media, fans and commentators are already lining up on both sides. Some argue that Clark and her teammates are benefiting from preferential treatment, riding a wave of hype at the expense of deserving veterans or overlooked rookies. Others point out, rightly so, that Clark has earned every bit of her platform through performance, hard work, and undeniable star power. And that players like Cunningham and Hull have simply proven themselves worthy of minutes on merit, not favoritism.
This game beat NHL playoff ratings. A WNBA game, a preseason WNBA game, not only beat those ratings, destroyed them. More watched than any NBA preseason game since 2018, all but 2 NBA preseason games since 2010.
What's even more telling is how Swoopes hinted this won't be a one-time outburst. Her comments suggest a season-long campaign, a narrative where, anytime Clark or her teammates succeed, questions about race, opportunity, and old school versus new school will bubble to the surface. Fans of Clark are going to have to brace themselves because the backlash isn't going away. If anything, it's intensifying. Meanwhile, within the Fever's locker room, there's a balancing act that must happen. Team chemistry is fragile, especially on a squad with so many new faces, high expectations, and heavy media attention. Clark, Aaliyah Boston, Kelsey Mitchell, Sophie Cunningham, Lexi Hull, they all have to gel fast, build trust, and rise above the noise if Indiana wants to compete. And that's no small task when the media cycle is feeding daily distractions. Let's not forget, Caitlin Clark's own on-court performance is under a microscope as well. She's expected to not just survive in the WNBA, but dominate. Every turnover, missed shot, or rookie mistake will be magnified tenfold. And every win, every logo 3, every assist will spark more resentment from critics who think she's getting too much shine. At the end of the day, this isn't just about Brie Hall getting cut. This is about power shifting in the WNBA.
She hits her signature logo 3 from 36 feet, actually behind her signature logo that was on the court.
I didn't plan to shoot that logo 3. I know coming into the game, everybody wanted me to shoot one from there. But Steph was like, was supposed to come out at the end of the third, so she's like, give a foul, give a foul, give a foul. And then it was 30 seconds on the clock, which like between 30 to 33, that's like your 2-for-1 range where you have to get one up. So I saw 30 as we're inbounding the ball, which probably is inbounding the ball at 30, probably a little low, but I was like, why not?
Young stars like Caitlin Clark are drawing unprecedented national attention, and not everyone is happy about how fast the landscape is changing. For Clark, the challenge now isn't just leading the Fever on the court, it's navigating the storm of scrutiny, jealousy, and cultural tension swirling around her off the court. And make no mistake, this story is just getting started. Sheryl Swoopes has fired the first shot, The question is, how will Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever respond? One thing's for sure, the Indiana Fever didn't just cut 2 players. They lit the fuse on a season that's already sparking with controversy, tension, and drama. With Sheryl Swoopes calling out the coaching staff and throwing shade toward Caitlin Clark and her teammates, this storyline isn't going away anytime soon. If anything, it's only going to escalate as the season heats up. The battle lines are drawn, the old guard versus the new stars, critics versus rising talent, and all eyes locked squarely on Caitlin Clark. What happens next could shape not just the Fever season, but the entire WNBA landscape. I'll be tracking every twist, every headline, and every moment of this unfolding drama. So make sure you don't miss a thing. Drop your thoughts below and let me know where you stand. Was Sheryl Swoopes right to call out the Fever? Or is this just more unnecessary hate towards Caitlin Clark and her teammates? Let's talk about it in the comments. And don't forget, if you're a Caitlin Clark fan, type CC 100% in the comments to show your support. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned because this story is far from over.